Live from Whoville, this is Derailed Trains of Thought. Well, hello, folks. Welcome from Greetings from Whoville. This is your host, Timothy Deal.
And this is your co-host, Nick Hayden.
I guess we're both co-hosts.
Well, you're a host today.
Well, I guess so, technically. But yeah, welcome. It's for another fun-filled holiday adventure here in Whoville.
We're in a relatively nice location once again.
I know. It's nice for a change, because...
It's almost a little too cute occasionally.
Occasionally. Sometimes there's a little hustle bustle, they gotta lay out all the hoo-boo brick and run up to get more, and they're very festive around here.
They're very, very festive, and they take a long time doing it. Make sure everything's just right.
Yes. So, and good for them. And how was your Thanksgiving, Nick?
Oh, my Thanksgiving was very good. It was good. I don't know. It was delicious. We had a lot of ham.
Yes.
No turkey.
No turkey?
No turkey.
Oh. Is that a Hayden thing? Or?
No, we just decided to do it this year. We all like ham better.
I think that's a Hoosier thing in general. At least that's something I get from my Southern grandmother. I have ham a whole lot more often.
Yeah, so we liked it. Yeah.
So good. Yeah. Well, I did have turkey. We went traditional.
I can't believe you, Tim.
Here I hear they
we'll
prefer...
never talk to you again.
I hear they prefer the roast beast.
Yes, they like the roast beast, which I don't think I've had. Not in true Who fashion.
Not in true, yes. I'm not even entirely sure what roast beast is.
No.
I suppose it could be about anything.
Yeah, what they make hot dogs out of.
Possibly, but hopefully.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. All right, anyway.
We're very festive tonight.
Yes, anywho. See what I did there?
Oh, nice.
Better do story school. See, we had the music transition coming up, so I had to hurry us onto the topic.
That was nice. Well, we can just keep music coming in the middle of everything we do, like we do some episodes.
Yeah, well, we want to try to avoid that sort of thing when possible.
Yes, we're not talking about chaos today in story school.
Actually, today's topic, well, it is sort of chaotic in a sense, depending on how you look at it. Anywho, today I thought...
I see what you did there.
It'd be interesting to talk about entertainment glut, because we live in a very media-saturated society. I think it's safe to say there's probably never been more storytelling to keep up with at any point in time than right now.
Can't imagine.
Yeah.
Unless you were trapped in a library.
But I mean, think about just the sheer number of forms of storytelling, which we talked about when you got the written form, you got books. You got TV. Technically, there's still a radio, audio
dramas all over podcasting. That's good occasionally.
The YouTube, I think they get how many years worth of video every day.
Yeah.
It's impossible. It's almost impossible to keep up with.
Interactive fiction, because there's 5 of us that still play that.
There's that. And it gets tricky too, trying to figure out what's the stuff that most deserves your time,
or how do you even start choosing sometimes? I mean, sometimes you just I think I might have said this on the podcast before, but sometimes you go to a bookstore and I'm just depressed because just okay, I'm done. I can't read any of this. It takes me a year to read 4 books.
Oh yeah. Some of that stuff is easy to make, some decisions on, okay, obviously this has really filthy language, or this, has way more sex in it than I really want to read about, or there's always those things but the problem now is that there's almost too much good stuff.
There's a lot of good, just in TV, it's like the golden age of TV if you want to watch good TV. Mm-hmm. And then there's, and here's the problem. If you're just keeping up with, Zach and I had this discussion the other day, my brother Zach, that I told him I wouldn't need any more books. I could just survive on the books I have down in the basement, rereading them over and over again. But he's like, there's so much good stuff still coming out. And that's the problem, that you could be happy reading just the old good stuff.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about the movie industry, there are new movies in the theater every weekend. Obviously not everyone is worth watching. But just if you look at just the quantity out there, at least one new movie every week. That's 52 movies a year. And then how many years you've been alive? Okay, so say you've been around for 30 years. That's 50 times 30. You're the math whiz. That's
1,500.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of movies that come out just within our lifetimes, let alone, all the great movies that Brian would introduce to us from the classic.
And then all the bad movies you introduced by 3 robots. So.
Mystery Science 3000. So, and I'm with you right there with you with the TV thing too, because they used to say there's like 500 channels out there and there's nothing good on. Yeah. Well, now even if you're looking at just the basic network channels, there's still a lot. I mean, there's actually a lot of good stuff on.
I mean, there's still a lot of channels with nothing on. But
granted, that's why I think cable is an absolute waste of money anymore. Especially when, I mean, that's the nice thing about the internet. You can watch things whenever you want, whenever it's convenient for you. And that's how I watch probably most of my stuff now.
Yeah, there's a lot of angles you can take this from. And I guess first, maybe how do you start making the choices about how to watch things?
Well,
or do you make choices?
I think everyone has to make some choices because there's going to be some genres that you're just naturally inclined towards and some that you probably are not. I don't watch hardly any reality TV. I know that's something that you have succumbed to, but
occasionally I watch some Survivor, not as much as my brother does, but I watch some Survivor and occasionally I'll watch some other this here or that. And normally it's very popcorny, like I got a half hour to kill.
Right. Action-y sort of
something like that. Well, there was like this mystery one on that I thought was kind of fun.
Right, yeah.
Anyways, well, I guess I mentioned that because the thing with like say book especially, but it works for movies and TV, is that in many ways, when you can't make there's so many choices, you watch or you read what everyone else is watching and reading. Mm-hmm. Not because it's bad necessarily, but it's
you don't want to feel out of the loop.
You don't want to feel out of the loop, and it's one of the easiest ways to figure out, well, if other people like it, must be good. Mm-hmm. Books especially, because that's a movie, a TV show you can watch half an hour and be like, okay, I'm not going to watch the rest of the season or whatever. Mm-hmm. A book, even if you're just going to read 50 pages and then make your decision.
For most people, that's a heavy time.
Yeah, exactly. And most people, when they get that far in, you're like, well, might as well just finish this thing, unless it's, wheel time. So I had to throw that in there.
Of course.
That's all I've got. No, and I think there's a good and bad thing about that. It does build community to a certain extent, an interactivity, and that's, the one upside to watching things when it live, not on the internet.
Right.
Is that you're like, oh, we're all watching at the same time, and tomorrow I can go and tell people that, oh, did you see, Rumpelstiltskin's mother is Mother Goose.
Which has not actually happened yet, but it could.
Or Mother Gothel or whatever. They're going to pull her out. You know that. They got to. Rumpelstiltskin's
mother? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Gothel, I think. Yeah.
Who's Gothel? I'm trying to
No, that's mother. That's the name of Rumpelstiltskin's mom, I believe. Or
really?
Or her stepmom thing.
I don't remember that.
I think. Well, I think in
I didn't think Rumpelstiltskin had a backstory.
No. Did I say Rumpelstiltskin? Rapunzel. Sorry.
Rapunzel.
I've been saying that too many times. Sorry. I was thinking Rapunzel in my head. Like, in my head, I saw Rapzunel. Like, actually, I saw those words. So.
Well, yeah. We'll talk about Once Upon a Time. Obviously, we assume you're talking Rumpelstiltskin.
I know. So, anyways, but now with the internet, there's so many smaller groups. They'd be like, oh, everyone's in my anime group is watching fill in the blank, or everyone in my, cool sci-fi shows that no one watches is watching this, or everyone in my bonnet movie Puritan religious book group is reading this.
I don't know. Well, okay. Now there probably is a group about that somewhere.
Probably somewhere.
A book club, maybe.
Yeah.
With all old grandmas, probably. Anywho, not to be completely stereotypical.
And I think in many ways, when we don't know what we're getting into, that's about the only thing you have to make decisions off of. Mm-hmm. Which is good and bad.
Yeah.
But then, from a creating point of view, it's harder. You got to get that group somehow to say, oh, look, let's read this thing that no one's reading. No one does that. Well, I mean, some people do on purpose. Yeah. They're the group that reads things that no one else is reading.
Right, yeah. I mean, my mom's book group, I think, is pretty interesting because I'll talk about it with her sometimes. And they read stuff that she would never read on her own. But I think it's interesting what they'll do is that they take suggestions from the whole group and That's how she got them to read Brothers Karamazov, I believe.
Woohoo! I never talked to her about that. It was good stuff.
Oh yeah, but then there'll be other stuff that she doesn't really care much, and then they get together, and some people care about it, and some people don't.
Yeah.
They're very eclectic, so
Yeah, that's cool.
And that kind of thing is nice. I know for a brief time before I even went to film school, we had our own little film club thing that met once a month, and I think our goal in that class, or that no, it wasn't class, in that group was to watch something that we would never watch otherwise.
Yeah, things like that we knew we should have watched to be educated, but had not.
Yeah, that's how I saw Citizen Kane before I actually went to film school, and most of those movies we wound up really enjoying. I mean, I think the only one we were all kind of meh on was Annie Hall.
Yeah,
but
we saw Grave of the Fireflies in that group.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was a heavy one.
It was a heavy one. But yeah, it was a good group. But we only did it for like 4 or 5 months, I think. But
and that kind of thing is nice, and that's one of the things I appreciated too about having Brian on the show, because Brian introduced me to a class of movies that wouldn't necessarily watch by myself.
Well, like I was with Brian last night, and we watched. He just picks out random eclectic stuff now. Now it's not always classics. Though I had 10 choices, but we ended up watching The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
Oh yeah, that came out a few years ago.
Yeah, and then we watched the 2001 Godzilla movie.
That's a very funny mix.
It was great. It was a good balance.
I take it you watched the Godzilla after.
Yes, it was a good. It was actually a really good Godzilla too.
Have you seen the trailer for the new one?
I did. No, I'm not. Wait,
I guess it's supposed to come out in May or something.
Yeah, what trailer did I just see recently? I guess it was not that one. I saw some other trailer someone told me to watch.
It's a good trailer. Like, I care nothing about Godzilla. Yeah. Sorry, Nathan. I really have no interest, but it's like, wow, that was very cinematic and very well done. I think it's, well, I don't know. It's impossible to say from a trailer, but it has a possibility of being better than Pacific Rim.
Yeah, nice.
And, well, different.
Different, yeah. Anyways, back to Glut.
Yes.
So I mean, that's a good way. You hear from people you trust. That's how Tim and I the other day. Confession, neither of us has ever seen an episode of Breaking Bad, even though apparently anyone who's awesome has.
Yeah.
But the other day we were both like, we weren't interested, but I was hearing things from this corner, and you were hearing things from that corner, like maybe, possibly, we should try this thing.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing about that is that it was a story. It didn't sound interesting when we first heard about it, but then after time. It wasn't just the hype. Like, if it was just hype, that wouldn't have interested me that much. Yeah. But it was what we were hearing about how they were handling this character.
Yes.
That's what intrigued us.
So if you're a Breaking Bad fan, we apologize.
We have not had any Breaking Bad, but we've thought about going through and watching it sometime. But anyway, so that's one way we kind of help stifle down the glut, hearing good recommendations from things.
And from people you trust.
From people you trust, yeah. That's that's an important thing. That's why I read Hamlet. Just a few years ago. It's like this seems kind of important.
Yeah.
As my sister likes quoting Emperor's New Groove a lot.
Now that is a movie everyone should watch.
Yes, Kronk. This is kind of important. On the flip side of that, interesting story, I watched this internet reviewer sometimes, Doug Walker. He's been going through talking about live action Disney movies this month. And he was talking about Mary Poppins and how it was one of his favorites growing up. And he figured, everyone has seen this, everyone should have a copy of it. Well, then a few days later, I read this interview with the actress who was the little girl in the movie who played Jane. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting that she said that she never showed Mary Poppins to her kids, not because she didn't, enjoy the experience or anything, she did, but she didn't want her kids to see her as something other than just a mom sort of thing. And then once she saw it, obviously she enjoyed it. But I just thought that was interesting. Some who in Whoville's phone is going off. But I just thought that was interesting that, here's a movie that some people think is just... must be seen. You can't be an American kid without having seen it. And then yet here's this person saying like, no, my kids, they went through it. They didn't mind, it was the right time for them to see it when they did. And of course they're all grown up now. And live listeners will enjoy this because I'm in the middle, because Nick just walked out.
Sorry. Even Whoville, you get those people calling Wayne donations.
Who is that?
Someone asking for a donation.
Oh, donation.
Even in Whoville, yeah.
Wow. I guess they're
well, they're cheery. I mean, why not?
For all the needy Whovians. Yeah.
Or all the.
I guess they're not Whovians. Those are Doctor Who.
I think.
fans.
Yeah. I don't know. They were asking for some money for some guy named Yertle, I think.
Okay. And that's not for their friend Horton.
Well, no, I think that's another. I got a call for him yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a different branch of Whoville. Or
Yeah.
Whodum,
Yeah.
or anyway.
Hoovdom.
Whovdom. Okay.
Yes, I do apologize for being gone.
Okay, so anyway, the point I was making is that here are these kids that didn't see this movie that everyone considers like an American classic.
Yeah.
You don't know your Americana Disney without having seen this. Then here it doesn't really matter. So, you can get away with not knowing this stuff.
Yeah, and I think what you're assumed to know now is shifts depending on where you are nowadays. Because many years, you had to read the Roman classics. You hadn't read Homer and Beowulf and things like that. You weren't educated. And now, I don't think anyone cares unless, I still think you should read the classics, but, even in English class, they're teaching more stuff from like 1920 on.
Yeah.
Because there's so much stuff. And we do have a tendency to discount the old when new comes in.
Yes.
That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, it's not always fair, but I understand it when it comes to schools a lot of times. Now, not in every case, because some schools have their students read just garbage.
Yeah.
But I do get it's not worth trying to force a child to read the Odyssey, for example, if they're not inherently interested, because they're gonna just muddle through it. They're not gonna enjoy it. They're not gonna understand it. So you have to have something that still teaches them critical reading skills, but that they can identify with.
And yes, it's interesting. Along with glut, I think sometimes, and this might be off topic from what you were talking about, but you have a sense sometimes you want to be well-rounded. You want to be in touch with all of the cultural touchstones, and sometimes you just want to be up on your fandom. You're you're a Star Wars fan. You want to have read all the important books, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think the danger in that is at some point then it stops, the reason you're reading or watching stops being to enjoy it and to absorb it as art, and becomes more of a checklist or a absorbing of knowledge. Or
a responsibility.
Yeah. And I don't think art's supposed to be done that way. You're right, because if you teach Homer and you kill the joy of reading Homer, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, if you teach them to read classic books, it's so that they want to go back and read other classic books.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very interesting point, because that's something I've been sort of wrestling with. I probably don't watch TV as much as some people, but I do realize there's 7 shows now that I watch on a regular basis, and I try to keep up with. I'm not sure if I've ever had so many that I keep up with. And part of my reasoning for having done that, I think, is that I'm like, well, I'm going to want to know how this goes, so I might as well watch it as it comes out, as opposed to getting the DVD later or something like that, which I guess has some validity to it, but at the same time, that's where, like I said, it probably is too much responsibility and not as much, what value is this adding to my life?
Yeah. And I think the gut reaction of a human is to want more and more. I was just listening to a podcast about that today, from a theological point of view. But we want more. They were saying that part of the original fall of man was that they weren't content with what God had already given them. They wanted more than that. And this idea that, if one book's good, 10 are better. Or if one TV show is good, 10 is better. And not that there's a lot of good stuff worth enjoying, but I think the culture is going to push people inherently to continually consume. And I think there's both a freedom and maybe even a greater enjoyment of things if you purposely limit. Mm-hmm. If you purposely say, look, I'm not going to try to be knowledgeable on all things. This is one thing I really like. I'm going to stick with this one and really enjoy this one thing or these two things, as opposed to I'm going to try to be, know all things about all things.
Yeah.
Most people cannot be Renaissance men.
Yes.
Though we all want to be.
Yes. Well, that's the thing, because you want to. I don't know if it's a bad aspiration.
No, not necessarily.
To want to be interested, and I think I think that's encouraged at an earlier and earlier age now. Because parents want their child to feel free to go out and do and be and see whatever they want, but you have to learn where to draw the line.
Yeah, because sometimes I see these people who are they're professors of medieval French literature. And you're like, at first, like, that's bizarre. Why would we do such a tiny thing? Then I'm thinking, but think of that. They know this one thing like the back of their hand. You know, they know it deeply. It's one thing to read Lord of the Rings and like it. It's another thing to have, like, read all the histories of Middle Earth and to, like, I grok Tolkien. I remember I had to go back and speak to some writing majors one time. And
At Taylor?
At Taylor, Fort Wayne, back when, I don't remember what exactly their purpose was there. It was after a chapel, then they had us come and do a little thing for the writing majors. But they asked, like, how do you pick what to read? And I said, I just pick what I'm interested right there, you know. So I went through my Russian phase, and I read all kinds of Russian things. And then I wasn't, you know, I'll probably go back to it. And then, you know, right now I'm in my Bradbury phase, and I'm okay. I don't read anything else, and it doesn't bother me. I'm not like, oh no, but everyone else is reading fill in the blank. I'm all worried.
Yeah. And I've kind of come to accept that people will probably more and more identify me with hey, he's the Muppet guy. Like, I'm constantly getting people, like, posting on my Facebook Muppet related things, and half the time, like, I've already seen that, but thanks for sharing it with me. And, you know, I think it's okay to accept that. I mean, as long as, you know, I don't go overboard with it. I'm not, like, stalking Steve Whitmire or anything.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot, you know. We can't all be eyes. Some of us need to be ears. You know, we're not all entire bodies. I mean, I think we're being specialized in something is perfectly fine, you know. And I think in some ways freeing that you don't have to feel compelled to know exactly what everyone's talking about all the time.
Right. And honestly, if you're so consumed with making sure you're up to date on, you know, a show or the current shows or anything like that, you know, that in a sense, you kind of have to take a hard look at that and ask yourself, okay, is that becoming an idol? Yeah. I mean, I've had to do that before. I had to step away from something for a while, fast from it, just to get the priorities in the right place. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of entertainment and joy and pleasure taken from art, but I think it's still one part of life.
Yes. Yeah.
A very good part and part necessary from the, you know, you almost need work and stuff, real life and work, so they can enjoy art. And you need art so you can enjoy, you know, like back and forth. You know, if all I did, some people say I want to just read every day all the time. I wouldn't want that. I don't think I would enjoy reading constantly.
Because then you'd be like, I want to go out and do something.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think people who are creative can get into this rut a little bit, you know, very easily. Because this is, not only is this our hobby, it's our passion. It's we have very deep feelings about this. So it's not only the instinct of wanting to know everything that's going on, but it's also this is part of who I am.
Yeah, we want to know the pulse, and we want to see how other people do it, and we want to be exposed to things that might inspire us better, and
So I think for creatives especially, I'll need that outlet of real life in a sense. And I think if you're missing that, you kind of like need to just take a second look. Yeah. So, and that's kind of what this whole conversation has been about.
Real life is good stuff. You know,
is this real life or is it a fantasy? Okay, anyway. Very random queen quote.
Hey, now you can do that whenever.
I don't really have much aside from that.
That's what I got.
That's all I got.
Let's see.
Honestly, I probably wouldn't even know that if it wasn't for the Muppets.
Yeah. Well, you know, like last episode, I was confessing that, you know, I bring up the same examples all the time because that's what I know, and I don't feel compelled. Not compelled. I don't feel worried that I don't necessarily know deeply. You know, Nathan knows Godzilla really well. You know, I don't. I enjoy Godzilla.
And honestly, pop culture or pop music in general is probably that way for me. I don't understand how people follow like all the pop artists that are out there. Because I'm really, like, I've never really cared enough to dip my toes into that.
See, Natasha keeps track of all the YA stuff, and I don't, you know, I keep track of everything pre-1900, and no, not quite like that, but...
Well, Ray Bradbury's 20th.
I know, no, I do some 20th century now. Science fiction I do, obviously, because there's not that much before.
Actually, science fiction doesn't seem like it's still that big of a genre as it could be.
No, if 40s, like... 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, it was really big, and then kind of fantasy overtook it, and that kind of mid. I mean, hard sci-fi is not
done quite as much anymore.
No, I mean, I think there's very strong circles where it is, but yeah, it's less now, from what I understand. Well, Bradbury's not really science fiction. I mean, it is, but it's not, depending how you define things.
Okay.
Yes. All right. A little rambly.
Little
But
rambly, but I think it's good.
it's good, right? Right around Christmas because you're looking at all the stores. Like, I was shopping for people. I'm like, oh, that would be fun to watch sometime. Oh, that book would be fun to read. And you get this giant list, and then which is why on my nightstand I have about normally it's a little bigger right now. I have like 2 or 3 books, and I'm like, okay, I'm not getting any more books up here. And there might be somewhere else until I finish one of these.
Mm-hmm. And commercialism doesn't help with that.
No, because sometimes you just want to own it and instead of read it. And I mean, not that you don't mean to read it, but it's like once you own it, half of it's done.
you own, you feel like you have some license. Hey, I have that on my shelf.
I have that on my shelf. Yeah. I mean to read it, and then it's 20 years later, you're like, I mean to read it. And I'd almost rather not ever buy a book unless I'm ready to read it right now.
I remember a couple years ago being at Barnes and Noble. Don't tell Summer.
Oh, she loves Barnes and Noble. I mean, going there.
Oh, yeah. But I was at Barnes and Noble, and I noticed there is like an entire shelf of Charlie Brown Christmas stuff. And Charlie Brown Christmas sort of has this, it's sort of anti-commercialism in it, and yet there's this whole shelf of DVDs and soundtrack and books and figurines, and
oh man,
it's like
Charlie Brown would come in there like, even my own dog.
Yeah. So it's like I don't know what the answer there is. I mean, yeah,
because that was what people wanted, and people like the idea of Charlie Brown and the non-commercialism and the true meaning, but. Yeah,
and the simplicity stuff, but
it's always the struggle for simplicity in this world is
very difficult.
Very difficult. I think very rewarding when you manage it.
Yes.
In times when you manage it. I come home and there's the kids and play with them until they go to bed, and then I write a little bit, and then I read a little bit and go to bed. I mean, that's enough for me.
If a man can be happy and enjoy his day's work, then
exactly,
that's enough.
That too is a gift of God.
That indeed. With that said, be thinking about your New Year's resolutions in regards to how you spend your time, and we will move on to soundtrack. Okay, for my soundtrack today, I always try to pick something kind of Christmassy, which Nick's chafes at, but I didn't manage to find something. This is from, apparently Overclock Remix has a Christmas album. I don't think it has quite the same level of scrutiny that the website does. In terms of, it's not
just
judged.
It's just unofficial.
Unofficial
sort of thing. Throw whatever you want in it.
Okay.
I think.
But this is one that was from last year's Overclock Christmas album that also made it onto the site itself. It's a remix from Rise Star, which I've never played. And it's called Stars on Ice. Remixed by Dusk with some piano assistance from Rexy. I like those names.
Those are easy names.
Those are easy names. And I think it's very Christmassy. So, here it is, and hope you enjoy. And we're back. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Let's move into our take.
On Tales.
All right, so what we thought we'd do this year, we've done end of the year stuff before. We've talked about Christmas specials and things like that. We're not going to do that this year because we're kind of out of topics.
Yeah.
You can only talk.
So many Christmas related stories.
And if Brian,
I actually haven't watched hardly any Christmas this year yet.
I haven't either. I mean, it is a little early, but.
Well, what? After Halloween, you're supposed to start watching Christmas stuff.
Well, you said you showed Theo
Charlie Brown.
Muppet's Family Christmas.
Yeah,
So
that
there
is
you go.
great. That's good stuff.
So what instead we're going to talk about? We thought we'd talk about would help you with your Christmas shopping.
Yes,
and talk about, since there is so much entertainment going out there, what are some of our favorite stories that we've encountered this year? Something that we've read, something that we've seen, a movie or whatever. And these are our recommended gifts to you. Or if you know us, these could be good Christmas presents for us.
So
right.
Tim, you start. Yeah, I think I have ideas, but I'm still processing.
Okay, well, I think I can pretty easily name my favorite book for the year. You want to take a guess at what that was?
Your Jim Henson biography.
Yes, Jim Henson, the biography. If you are at all interested, if the concept of reading Jim Henson biography interests you,
It does.
You need to read this book.
I do.
It's written by Brian J. Jones. I hope I'm getting his name right because I don't have it in front of me. But he does a fantastic job. And it's like a 500-page biography, and it's all worth it. You'll know when you start off that this is, you're getting into a nice detailed biography. And it's been a while since I read one like this. Because like the first chapter is a lot about his family history. Like it goes back to his grandfather who was in the Civil War and stuff like that. And it gives sort of an interesting picture just into his parents, what his father was like, how he got a lot of his habits of constantly seeking, respecting other people, but always seeking the best solution to things. And he really tried to avoid conflict, and that carried on to Jim too, sometimes to the detriment. One interesting thing about this biography, which I was really looking forward to going into it, and I was glad that they did, was that it didn't shy away from talking about some of the more difficult things about Jim's life. Most previous works had been, basically put out by the Jim Henson Company and stuff like that. And this was authorized by the Henson family, so it's not like he was trying to sensationalize. And honestly, it's not like it's gonna paint. You're gonna read this and think, oh man, Jim Henson was a horrible person. No, he comes out very human, but it is honest in that he and his wife had very different communication styles, and that eventually led to their legal separation. But oddly enough, they were always good friends. As Brian Henson says at some point, my mom and my dad, they always got along except when they didn't. And it's pretty accurate. So it's a great read. And it goes into some detail about the various productions, but it's not fully about that. It covers a wide spectrum about his life. I mean, in a large sense, Jim Henson's life was about his work. He absolutely loved what he did, and he loved to work. But it also goes into some other things, some good, some bad. The one warning I would give to more conservative readers is that while the author doesn't ever use any vulgarities of his own, he does leave them in when someone cusses in one of his quotes.
Yeah,
he did some great interviews with. He must have interviewed a lot of people in the making. I think he was working on this book for like 5 years.
Wow.
And so some people did. Actually, Frank Oz has kind of a filthy mouth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean,
Miss Piggy.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't terribly surprised about it, but at this point, I remember reading like way back before Phantom Menace came out about like behind the scenes stuff and about how when Yoda was still a puppet, how he would have Frank kind of as a joke have Yoda cuss people out, and it's like okay, that's just Frank. Honestly, it's just him. So be aware of that. He drops an F-bomb maybe in like every 3 quotes that he has in him. But other than that, it's a great read, and I'd recommend it to anybody.
Nice. Well, my seminal book for the year, I believe it was early this year. I don't think it was late last year. Would have to be the Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury.
Oh, okay.
You need to read that book.
Right. Now, I know last year you talked about one Ray Bradbury short collection thing you had done. I don't remember what that was.
The
now.
Cat's Pajamas?
Okay, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Which was my introduction. Well, okay, I guess I was technically introduced to him in school through Fahrenheit 451 and stuff like that. And I didn't remember much about him. I don't think I read almost anything by him unless I had to. And I read a lot of Asimov and other stuff. But I read Cat's Pajamas, I think, right after Ren was born. Which would have been almost 2 years ago now. And then I didn't read, I'd always been interested. I liked it enough. I wanted to read something else. And I eyed this used copy of Illustrated Man. And you know what? I would have got it for when Natasha got her third degree, I think. No.
Third degree Taekwondo?
Taekwondo. No, that's what got the other one. I think it might have been my birthday last year I got it.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so I would have not probably finished it until, anyways, it's a year ago approximately.
But you read it sometime this year.
Yeah. But anyway, they started this year-long obsession with Ray Bradbury.
Which our friend Aaron highly approves of.
Yeah. I mean, Aaron has known about Bradbury forever and apparently never listened to him. But here's the reason. I mean, why would Illustrated Man especially, even though everything I've read by him I've generally enjoyed, but that particular collection was just, it was all kinds of stories, all kinds of, I mean, they're all spacey stories generally. But it's like, I don't know, probably nearly 20 short stories or something there. And every one of them is awesome. I mean, every one of them is like, this is good, like good stuff. And I don't know, it just introduced me to a whole different way of doing short story. Not obsessed with reading his short stories. And then I read Dandelion Wine and Quicker Than I, and I'm reading Martian Chronicles. I got like 10 pages left of that now. But I also, and I got something Wicked This Way Comes for my birthday to read. But it's also changed how I think about writing short stories. Like, I used to write short stories one way, and then I went to my flash fiction phase where I could, I really was thinking of these really tiny ones. And then it's like re-expanded how I can describe things and how you can pace stuff. And I don't know, he's very, very good. And so that's been probably my most important book for me this year. There's been other books I've enjoyed. But that one's had a lasting impact on me this year.
Cool.
So,
awesome.
So come on, just because it's from like 1940s or 50s, it's awesome.
Now, what time span did he write in? Like, how long was...
He wrote until he died, just about, I think. I mean, Cat's Pajamas...
Well, that's what I figured, but I mean, it's like... Oh, okay. I mean... Because he only died a few years ago.
Martian Chronicles, right? Some of the short stories in that were published in the 40s. I think he published some even before that. And no, Quicker Than I think, was stuff from the 80s or 90s. Cat's Pajamas was later than that.
Okay.
So, I mean, he was probably most popular back in the 40s, 50s when you could do short stories anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But he has, dozens of collections.
Okay. So good body of work there.
Yes.
To go check out. No.
Hundreds, I think.
So which one would you recommend to someone starting out?
I would still say Illustrated Man.
Illustrated Man.
One I read.
Okay.
Or Martian Chronicles. I mean, Martian Chronicles is probably the closest to being a novel. I mean, it's really short stories, but they connect. Illustrated Man is just random short stories in kind of the same similar vein of space. But like, there's 5 or 6 of them on Mars, but they're all completely different Marses.
Okay. Okay.
Or possibly, I haven't read Fahrenheit 451 since college, since middle school.
That's probably most people's.
That's what, yeah. But so I don't remember enough of that to say if it's a good introduction or not. I mean, for reading his short stories.
Gotcha. All right.
I'm trying to think of movies though. I'm a lot of good movies, but I don't know if anything that were like doom.
I would say one that stands out for me, and I don't think it's probably not on DVD yet. So maybe this isn't a good something you can get you get a gift certificate for it. Maybe I don't know. But Gravity really sticks out in my mind. I
haven't seen that yet.
I mean, I loved. I really enjoyed pretty much all the blockbuster movies I saw this year.
They were pretty good, all of them this year.
Yeah, all around. Thor being the most recent. Well, and Catching Fire was.
Catching Fire was really good.
Yeah, that was really good. I'm trying to think. Remember what came out this summer. So obviously Wolverine didn't make quite as much an impression because I'm not thinking about it. But I'd say in terms of just sheer filmmaking, I'd say Gravity is probably the one that really impressed me the most. The one that like made me forget to breathe a lot of times while I was at the theater, and just really grabbed me by the throat, and didn't like. I mean, if you like that sensation in Cloverfield,
Yeah.
then you'll really enjoy this.
I've heard
this
only
movie.
people tell me good stuff about it.
Yeah,
So
it's bound. I think it will probably, honestly, hit DVD around award season time.
okay.
Because there'd already been talk about it, and and it's a suspense movie. It's also it's a survival movie. It's about surviving in space, but it relies more on just the whole suspense of the situation in a wonderful filmic way than just merely dodging buildings and skyscrapers falling around you and stuff like that.
Nice.
So I'd say Gravity is probably going to be at the top of a lot of people's best films of the year list.
And I haven't seen it yet, but
of course next year's will be Muppets Most Wanted. That's another story.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Have you seen the trailers for that?
Yes.
It looks fun.
It looks great. I'm quite happy about the potential for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe my memory's just not working very well, but I think there's a lot of good stuff, but nothing that stands out for me movie wise.
Again, it doesn't have to be a movie that came out this year, just something you saw this year.
Yeah, well, true. But I'm trying to think, what has had a lasting impact on me? Yeah, I saw this list today where you were supposed to just say 10 books that have had an impact on you. You just had to do it kind of off the top of your head. Mm-hmm. And you weren't supposed to, they didn't have to be great books or anything, just things that you're like, mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. My brain's dead.
Okay.
I know, but it's all Bradbury filled, I guess.
All the movies just kind of flew over you.
I actually saw more in the theater this year than normal. And we don't have Netflix, and we don't watch as many at home as we used to. And there were some that, like Children of Men, that was really interesting, but I'm not sure I exactly like it. Mm-hmm. So those sort of movies. I had a lot of those movies, it seems like. Movies that I almost really liked.
It's actually, just to jump back to the book thing real quick, I think another book that definitely should be on everybody's list this year is The Unremarkable Squire.
Oh, that one.
In case we haven't plugged that one enough, give you one more shout out here.
No, it is a very good book. I mean, I'm not saying it as author. I'm saying as, I'm saying it as the author, but I'm not saying it as to sell it. I think it actually is a good book.
Yes. I think it's one that a lot of people could really appreciate, get into.
I will say, you earlier said things were written. Maybe it's just because at the end of the year, I finished Squire this year. No, I didn't. Well, I got it out this year.
Yeah.
And I wrote very short stories and some Children Wells stuff. But for some reason, I think the Clock Tower, which I know we've talked on here before, was really important for me to get done. I feel like that was one of those ones that I don't know if anyone will like it better than other stuff I've written, but I felt like it was something I needed to get done for a long time. But it had first time I kind of combined my Bradbury inspiration with something I'd already started. If that makes any sense. It's kind of like I got this second or third wave of short stories that all have a different feel than my previous. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, you've kind of gone into this interesting new cerebral not quite reality sort of phase.
I have, and I don't know if anyone will like it, but I enjoy it. I sometimes think it must be like, you ever heard of Stanislaw Lem?
No.
The real guy, not Stuart Lem.
Okay.
No, I didn't know this, but Stanislaw, when I made the name, Stuart Lem is originally was just a pseudonym for me. It was going to be my author pen name.
Right.
It's my email.
And then he kind of took on a life of his own.
But Stanislaw Lem is an author, Polish, I believe, who wrote Solaris, among other things, the science fiction. And apparently he was a polymath. He was a Renaissance man. He knew everything.
Wow.
Insanely intelligent. And Solaris is very much that way, very heady. But then I read some short stories by him. One of them's like this time travel short story. And this guy has 4 versions of himself running around this ship. And it's just ridiculous. And I thought it was neat. He could do both types of things. Mm-hmm. And hopefully someday I'll write some more crazy stuff. But yeah, I am in this kind of odd, I don't know how to explain it. I don't feel like that, but whenever people read my stuff now, they're like, wow, this is, Wells Orphan, this is dark.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. I still need to finish that thing.
So you can, if you're feeling happy around January, you can come over to Children of Wells and read my novella.
You know, that I think about it, well, the dead of winter might not have been the best time to release something that depressing.
Or is it? So
That's a ringing endorsement right there.
I know it is.
For the next children's dwells.
No, it is actually. I think it's a really good book, but it's certainly a little heavier. It's yeah. Anyways, I don't know how we got on that. I'm sorry. That was my fault. But
No, it's a good sidetrack, I think.
so, but Buckethead, I started working on Buckethead to revise it.
Oh yeah, that's what I heard.
So that we can finally get that out to peoples in some sort of normal format. That's much more adventuresome.
Hey, it looks like Greg finally made it.
Hey, Greg.
So it says 2 minutes ago. So hopefully we haven't missed like other comments that he had. He says some people think that holidays are depressing, so maybe the Wells Orphan will cheer them up.
Poor person was cheered up by Wells Orphan.
That's like being cheered up by Evangelion, right?
Which, hey, you could be actually.
Some people, probably.
It's like
It's the end of the world. Woohoo!
No, it's like this. It's like happiness is a sad song, Charlie Brown.
Okay, yeah. Or sad is happy for deep people.
Well, but I always remember that was the name of one of the collections of Charlie Brown's things. Like happiness is a sad song.
Oh, okay.
I saw it somewhere and I thought that's true. You know, for some people, you know that sort of like Natasha. One of her favorite seasons is autumn. When the leaves are coming down, it's a little windy and it's a little rainy and kind of just a little cloudy. Kind of Katrina has a whole scene I kind of, but that where things are kind of just a little down. Kind of like a happy melancholy.
Okay, a happy melancholy. Yeah, I can see that because I love autumn because strangely enough, even though it's a season of things dying, it feels oddly alive to me. Like,
I think it does to a lot of people.
Summer kind of has this monotonous tone to it, whereas
sun.
The autumn has dripping leaves and wind and coolness and all the kind of stuff.
Yeah,
winter is monotonous too, but
yeah.
But anywho, okay, we were way off topic of what. But we were trying to talk about
our own Christmas things we suggest you should watch and or listen to.
Yeah, things that made an impact on us, or were some of our favorites from 2013, which is coming to an end in a few weeks. But I think we actually ran out of things too. We must have had things that made a deep impact.
Yeah, I don't know. I was very content. I had a lot of my books I enjoyed and I got stuff out of, but yeah, I just moved on. I have this thing where I don't have like strong memories.
At all?
No, seriously. Like I don't. This is probably just my own perception of myself. I always feel like I don't remember things as strongly as other people do. I'm very present. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong about that.
I could see that. Well, I don't know about you, but I empathize with that.
Okay, and maybe everyone does, and we all faker. But
I guess to try to get back to the topic here for like the fifth time, I will give a shout out to a kid's book that my mom actually suggested for me. It's not very often. This isn't even necessarily YA. This is this was in the children's section, and I guess it was a bestseller. And it came out around the time I was a teen librarian, but it was completely off my radar. But it was called the Mysterious Benedict Society.
Okay, I've heard of it.
You've heard of it? Okay. Yeah, it's sort of in the vein of Lemony Snicket in that it's got a good vocabulary. The author's got a real neat style to it, and it deals with like secret organizations and stuff. It's not Lemony Snicket in the sense of like, the purposely depressing type stuff. But it's pretty intelligent about like these three kids that are mysteriously, they go through this test to basically qualify for this secret assignment that this guy has who's very eccentric. And they have to basically infiltrate this academy that's up to some shady business sort of thing. So it's sort of like, well, no, I was going to say like Harry Potter with spies, but that's not really accurate at all, I don't think. But I really enjoyed it. One of the interesting things about it is like it's got kind of a timeless quality to it, I think, for a children's book. They've got like cars and they talk about TVs and stuff like that, but it never really feels like, I couldn't necessarily pin down like if it's a modern book. It probably is supposed to be set in a modern setting, but they don't talk a great deal about
so it feels
internet
like it
stuff.
Could kind of sit.
Yeah, it feels like it kind of sit in about anywhere. Which I think is a neat quality for a children's book.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you feel like, because a lot of older stuff kind of has a nice simple kids quality to it that some modern stuff would try to be too hip or something. Yeah. They'd come off as lame.
Yeah,
this doesn't come off that way at all. is, you can tell it's written by someone who really enjoys reading books and good stories like that.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. It was neat finding. I hear there's some sequels to it. But the nice thing about this book was that it all ends. It's a complete story. I mean, there's some things that you could see but at the same time, the story is complete in and of itself.
Okay.
And so yeah, if you're looking for interesting, Greg says he's adding a Mysterious Benedict Society to his reading list right now, along with The Unremarkable Squire.
Oh, nice.
So, actually, yeah, Greg, it would be right up his alley. So if you enjoy stuff like Redwall, it's not really a Redwall book, but you know what I mean by children's
All
books.
these things I'm saying, it's not. But it is.
Oh my goodness, Greg. So a couple things, Greg, and we're just commenting here because he is actually listening to us live. So we reward people who do this stuff. But some of the big things for him this year were accomplishing his first ever screenplay, creating the longest story he's ever written, which
is good.
We both read it,
Yeah,
and we both enjoyed it.
enjoyable.
And he read the Fellowship of the Ring for the first time, which he admits is shameful that it's the first time. But
You know what? I'll tell you what. When I had read, this is weird, but I had read Lord of the Rings back in 2nd or 3rd grade, which is ridiculous.
way too early,
Yeah.
probably.
And then I read them again sometime later. But then I remember in college rereading them, and especially Return of the King, really feeling like, wow, like really getting a different sense of it, and really being like, I don't know, the language, the style, the kind of the epicness of the battle, the darkness. I just read this phrase today again: the battle against the long defeat, the passing away of Middle Earth, all that. I'm like, it really impacted me. 3rd time I read it, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think there's definitely something about reading that at a certain age that makes a difference.
There's a lot of books I read back in like high school or early college I really would like to get back to, like that, like almost all my C.S. Lewis.
Which I guess is kind of how we talked about that not last December.
Old stories
in a previous podcast, yeah. When we talked about going back and rereading stuff.
Yeah.
Because it takes on a different meaning then.
It does. Or sometimes you're like, oh yeah, you only got fuel out of it for a couple of years, and then you need it back so you can get fuel going again.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not sure I would be one of these parents that shows their kids Star Wars when they're like 3 or 4. Like, no, I think they should wait till they're 8 or 9 where they would really be able to appreciate it. Because,
All right.
and hopefully they'll remember it. Okay.
We better get moving here.
Yeah. Sorry that Greg, you just turned in, but it's probably about time we wrap this up because this is going on long, and I think Nick has kind of run out of.
Yeah, I don't know. I ran out of steam tonight. So.
That's all right. All right. So, what is our contact info? Do you have Steam for that?
Oh yes, I do. Our contact info. Okay. Is
Hang on, I need to wind you back up.
Gmail at
Gmail at derailedtrainsofthought.com.
Take that, Google.
We took you over.
Derailedtrains at gmail.com and get a hold of us or you can visit our website at
derailedtrains.blogspot.com.
Subscribe to us on iTunes, which is always helpful.
And in case you only follow the iTunes, if you ever want to listen to like the raw, uncut version of this with mess ups and phones ringing when they shouldn't, you can also check us out on the place where they are still available on our Mixlr site. That's mixlr.com/derailedtrainsofthought. It's a long address, but you can type that in.
But it works.
And you can find really all of our raw broadcasts are on there in case you want to listen to like the pre-show,
unrated and uncut.
Yes. Well, anywho.
Yes, I see what you did there. Sorry.
What?
Anywho, we're Whoville.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, anyway, it's been fun. Nick, I think it's time for your soundtrack.
Okay, so I was trying desperately, since we're talking about Glut, trying to get some more Maze Dude in here, and Tim put down his foot and said, no, you can't have a 6-minute Maze Dude that has nothing to do with Christmas. So instead, I went to Joshua Morris because
so a 5.5-minute song that does have something to do with Christmas.
Yes, hey, I solved two of the things. Like, anyways, so Joshua Morris, who is also a regular featuree on our podcast.
Hey, he wrote our theme.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome.
Nice guy.
This is from remix from Final Fantasy X, called the Rondo Sanctuary, And it's a nice wintry sort of sounding song. And I hope you enjoy. And for my brother, who always says we should make the soundtrack shorter, this is 5.5 minutes just for you.
All right. So, how the best get out of Whoville?
Why get out of here? We're going to eat supper and stuff, aren't we?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we gotta stay.
We'll
for
just
the
stay
roast
here.
beef
Yeah,
and,
and singing. Lots of singing.
lots of singing, and that's Boris Karloff. I hear is around here somewhere.
Yeah.
So it should be a good time.
It should be good. Yeah. We'll stay here until we get swept over to where we go next. So how do we get from place to place? We'll have to figure that out one of these days.
That would be a great addition to our own mythology.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So this has been Derailed Trains of Thought, episode 40.
40. We are old now.
We're over the hill. It's been fun.
It has been actually a lot of fun.
So we'll when we get to episode 50, we'll have to do a big shindig.
Big shindig. Yeah, we weren't quite ready for a shindig this time.
Yeah, it didn't seem right to do a third anniversary when we really only had like 5 episodes this year.
Yeah. So,
But anywho, all right. Thanks for listening. This has been Tim,
this has been Nick.
and we will see you next time.
Adios. We should have this. It's amazing that you've had me podcast as well as I do. I went out and looked at it. It's a Gorgon. Their favorite cheese is Gorgonzola.
What is that from?
No, Medusa's favorite cheese has to be Gorgonzola. It's Gorgons and I don't know.
Is that an actual cheese?
Yeah.
Gorgonzola?
Gorgonzola? Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know my cheeses very
well. That's unfortunate. You never watch Monty Python then.
Apparently, yeah. I should just study that skit. I don't know all the
just
cheeses.
that skit. No, all the cheeses there could possibly be.
This is, by the way, this is going to be an attack for the iTunes version.
This sounds good. I like it.